What's up, guys? This is ComicSplice. This is our very first podcast, so whoever's listening or gonna listen or will listen in the future, we want to appreciate you because we know we're kind of an underdog here, Not really up there yet, but, we're doing our best to give you guys the most realistic, genuine thoughts about what we think what's coming out right now, especially with comic books, as you can tell by our channel if you have visited it. I would like to say my name is VHS Smuggler, and my homie here is Mr. ComicSplice.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, how's it going, man? How's your day?
Hey, it's been great, man.
Good. I like that. So, we finally were able to do it, but our first episode, just because it's out right now, and we thought it would be a good start, we just have to talk about the Batman, bro. We just have to talk about the Batman. We were going to do No Way Home first, right? But, there was a lot of stuff, that personal stuff. We fucking got sick and all this crazy shit. But don't worry, we're gonna come back with that, because we're gonna give you a hint of what's in the next episode here. But yeah, we're just a couple guys over here in Los Angeles, California. Grew up here, just a bunch of LA kids, just doing the thing. You know what I mean? We love comic books, ComicSplice here, my homie. He's a big film guy, so you got a film guy, you got a comic guy. So we just thought we'd mix that together and see what happens, Yeah. So again, we want to appreciate you guys for joining in because it's about to be a fucking ride from here on then. So we're going to get started right away. We just want to let you know this is a spoiler review. If you haven't seen it already, well, that's I don't know what to fucking tell you guys. You got to go see it. It's been 3 weeks already, 2.5 weeks now. Come on, man. You've heard all the reviews already? So anyways, we're going to get started here. We're going to start talking about the Batman. We're getting pretty detailed here on what we thought about. ComicSplice, what we got here?
Yeah, man. So, that was probably one of the best opening nights we've been to in recent memory.
Yeah.
And, I know Spider-Man was amazing, but this one was a whole new experience. It was just such a good crowd, and everyone was here to see Batman. See this a brand new Batman movie, and we've had so much just Batman in the last few years, and we've gotten I think this is gonna I really liked it overall. Actually, surprisingly,
Yeah.
Just prior to I just kept my expectations low, really, prior to going into this.
Of course, yeah, you're
because
right.
like I said, we just had so much Batmans that has come before, and then just not long ago too, So it's just so interesting to see a brand new take on an iconic character.
Right.
And I overall I dug it. I dug the movie. It was a new flavor of Batman. It almost felt like it was a culmination of both keeping it grounded, but it just combined a really comic book flavor to it too. It had some artistry to it.
True.
Visually it was awesome,
Yeah.
It had a lot of atmosphere. It felt like the most immersive Batman. I feel like watching
Most likely, I think so too.
Yeah. Because just watching it, I just feel like, wow, somehow this movie's allowing me to feel like I can embody this Batman and feel like I'm with him solving the case, solving the crime, and being in the action too. It felt so man, this is the first time I'm excited to be Batman.
I'm even smiling thinking about it. The way you're explaining it now, I'm just like, holy shit, I gotta see it a third time.
Yeah.
So because I saw it 2 times. ComicSplice here, homies, just saw it about 3 times. But I have to agree with you, man. At the end of the day, like you mentioned, the main categories of the Batman, the cinematography, the immersiveness of being with Batman in the detective work. Because when you actually go online, you go on the internet, you see a lot of people already saying this has to be the most Batman that has been done justice. And like we talked about before, this probably is the perfect example of doing of that phrase, doing something justice, right? And funny because Batman's all about justice, Justice Batman, Justice League, he's justice. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that, it is true. What I liked about the cinematography too was that it wasn't in your face where it covered up anything that was probably wrong about the movie.
Yeah.
It was balanced. You had great cinematography, but the scene. And when you talk about Batman being the detective work, that's why, one of the best scenes in there was when he's just fucking in the scene and, Martinez is telling, Jeffrey, what are you doing? Are you serious about this?
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't just his look at him when Pattinson looked up at him, with those eyes, if you don't get your hands off me, I'm going to give you the bat fucking bone breaker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But the way when they let him through, and then the shot of him walking from the back, and you saw his back walking past the cops, it just was epic.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole scene, like you said, where it was just that investigative thing, it really was like that, because it was just the way he presented himself and the way Robert Pattinson walked, in the thing was just I feel it. And he didn't have to do much, which was great, and And he just was looking with his eyes. He was just looking around. You almost felt like he was uncomfortable, but he wasn't. And Batman, I never figured him to be uncomfortable in situations like that, but I felt like in a way he kind of was because of his stiff walking a little bit. Like he kind of felt like, I know the eyes are burning through my back. I know they are.
Yeah.
But I still have to figure out what the fuck is going on. And that's what he does. And that's why he speaks at certain times, when he's supposed to. Like when the commissioner comes in, like, what the fuck is he doing here? And he says, he lies still.
Yeah.
And then he just says out of nowhere, just to kind of shut, at the same time, it's to give him the answer for the case, but to shut him up. Like, this is why I'm here, to give you your case and give you the answers. So Gordon is right by bringing me here, but he does it subtly, and that's why he only says the answer at right times. That's why the commissioner had nothing to say. Yeah. And he got pissed off saying, what did he say? He was like, oh, happy fucking Halloween, Because he was like, well, dude, I just solved your case for you, the riddle. Yeah. Like now you have more to look at. And I love it too, because everyone is like, what is he doing here?
Yeah.
And yes, it's year 2 and he's already established, but that's what makes it great, and that's what the immersiveness was great. And you know what I loved about it too, a little small thing that has cinematography and the feel of the fear that Batman wants to give to the enemy is when he has those two burglars, those two guys doing crime in the street, and they're looking in the shadows in the dark, but they see the bat signal before and they look in the dark. I was like, that is so sick, because it really does make you think, is he right there? Yeah. Because he is out and about now, and I just stole this. So it gets you thinking, like, maybe he is there. Maybe I should stop and run away, or just stop doing this shit. I love that, because that is the perfect example of a hero giving fear.
Yeah. And I think it's also just perfect world building. Because since he says a year or 2, this is their way to, like, now going into this universe, how do you establish this Gotham, and how do you establish this new world, Yeah. And how they fear this version of Batman, And just that moment just gave you kind of like chills already of like,
it did.
Where is he going to attack? Because he really was like setting up like, will he attack that guy? Is he going to attack this guy robbing the store?
Yep.
And then we get to the goons that are in the subway, which, obviously the trailers have already kind of shown that. So I kind of figured out he's going to go for those guys.
Right.
But if you didn't watch the trailers and you get to that moment, it's like, oh, that's cool. How it's like, which one is he going to take down
which
tonight? One is top priority. Like, I'm going to take down these guys first,
Well, that's why he also says in the movie, I have to choose my targets carefully.
Yeah.
What are the most important ones? That is always going to happen. I can't stop every one of those.
Yeah.
But I can stop this. You know what I mean? And that's true, because that's what happens. And that's why he says that. And when you mentioned the world building, there's been a lot of talks about that too. Even we talked about it.
Yeah.
It has the perfect blend of real life city and Gotham. You get that. Because the first scene where they're partying in Halloween, it does look like, oh wow, they're like, look like they're in, New York down the center right there in Times Square. But it's different. You had like real life streets. It did look rugged, and it just had, like you said, the world building, and it added on to the intensity of the emotions that Robert Pattinson was giving off, and then the vibes of those scenes, like looking in the shadows, like he must be there. I have to stop now, and that's what was great, dude. And that's why, all that, and speaking of that, that's why I think that my favorite scene is the crime scene, that first crime scene. It just was so good. It just, it spelled everything of what we're about to see in this whole movie. You know what I mean? And it just, after that, was a roller coaster. And I know you mentioned too the influences, like you said, that, which I know we'll talk about in a bit here, guys, is the influences. You saw those.
Yeah.
You really felt that. And then, I mean, just the intensity of even when the Riddler's in back of the mirror and he shows up in the shadows. It's like a horror. That was cool, bro.
That was awesome.
Like, wait, he's almost like the shadows too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which makes him the opponent.
Right, which was a great, because it really did test him. And which we'll get to that, guys, because there's a lot to talk about in this movie, but that was definitely, just speaking about like the immersiveness and the world building first, because we're about to get into some other stuff here, more details here. So,
and the fact that he wore the costume almost the entire movie. This hasn't really been done that like this is truly a Batman movie, because I really feel like even when he's Bruce Wayne, he doesn't break character from Batman. He's still Batman no matter where he's at in the movie. And I really believe that this version, he really is this Batman that uses the costume to hide the pain, to hide his, his real self, to use that pain against these, evil villains he has to take down.
Well, that's why I love when Paul Dano tells him at the end, that's you.
Yeah.
You wearing that mask, the person underneath, that's not you.
Yeah.
This is who you are. This is why you wear it, and I did what I did.
Yeah.
And that's so true, because, I mean, isn't that why all the heroes wear masks? You know, and not to bring him up, guys, because we know this is a Batman thing, but we're just trying to, just explain, the mask is the true person because, even characters like we've seen, I mean, like Spider-Man, other stuff, they wear a certain thing, especially Wolverine too. I mean, he wears a mask because one, he's a hero and he's with the X-Men. He probably, if he had a choice, he wouldn't do it. But there is pain, and what's the best way to cover your face for that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna still not only look cool, but there's gonna be even when Christian Bale said, when Nolan gave him that line, just said, "This is a symbol. It's a symbol of fear, and this is what I'm gonna give them. It's not just the costume and what I have." When they see me coming in the night like that, and they see a fucking like a man bat coming at me, I'm gonna run away too. I'm like, what? Either this guy is really the real deal, or he's really a fucking serial killer in a costume, and he's gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it messes with your head, and the Batman did that for the villains and the characters.
And that's why I think it was a good casting for Robert Pattinson. And is basing off his most recent work from Good Time. You could see where he
Very
just
true.
pretty much explained. He's a man in pain, and that movie he really expresses with his eyes, and I really think he kind of carried that kind of performance into the Batman.
That's very true, because it seems like he has used a lot of his. I feel like this was more of a challenge for him.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't saying much. And when he was saying much, he had to make sure that if he wasn't saying much, that when he did have dialogue, especially as Bruce Wayne, without the mask, he's like, well, how are they going to take me as seriously as Bruce Wayne?
Right.
So let me deliver these little lines as good as possible. Let me, like you said, go back maybe to those moments. Because I think you're right, like the Good Time kind of represented that. When he was Bruce Wayne, he was pretty quiet most of the time, except when he had a role. He had to get out of it. He was just like, that's why that famous car shot in Good Times, when he's in the back, it's just like, you could tell there's something there.
Yeah.
And that's great observation, because it kind of does seem like he brings that here. Like all his movies came together, and it's like the Batman is all of that.
Yeah.
I'm facing a serial killer. I'm going crazy myself because I have issues. And that will go into the next scene. It's a real fucked up Batman too that we saw.
Yes.
Even when he had his black eyes colored, I felt like that represented more. Yeah. Like I'm right now, I'm just my happiness is in darkness.
Yes.
And I will get out of that maybe.
Yeah.
But it's been helping me do this, and that's why he writes the notes in the movie. Like, just keep persevering. Don't think about this. Keep going. Don't stop. Just keep going, because he's getting second thoughts too. But he has to keep his mind straight, which really brings out a perfect balance of the Bruce Wayne and as Batman most of the time, which was great also, which we have to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Which we're gonna get. But he had that where when he was writing, it was like, so he it really showed he was human. Just that little 5-second scene of him writing, keep going, don't stop. It was kind of reminding himself, why is he doing this? Because at the end of the day, if you were in a costume all day, and you're all like, man, is it really worth it? Because I'm not stopping every single crime. What am I doing? You know what I mean? And he could tell from that little notebook he was getting those thoughts. But then he really thinks about, you know what? This is, like he said when he was talking with Alfred, this is my family's legacy. I'm here for my father was here for the people. He was a genuinely good man, but he was a billionaire. Yes. Yeah. My mother was too. So this is my good heart doing what I'm doing for the people, because it's so bad after he died. I just can't do this no more. And I have to create that mask, like we mentioned. And then I'm human too. I'm getting second thoughts, What do you want? And his eyes are just kind of like, even with the black, you can tell. And he always puts the glasses on even in the dark. Yeah. Like he likes being in that mode, He has to stay in that mode, Or else if he's not Batman, he might go crazy himself.
Yeah, and this is the Batman I really believe when I look at this Bruce Wayne that, I believe his parents were killed right in front of him as a kid, and you could just feel that pain over just the way you look at him, He just looks so broken and destroyed, which is Batman, it's so dark to see your parents get murdered right in front of you, so of course he's going to be not all well in the head.
True. And you know who did that too, actually, and a good reference, because I felt that there were also some references in here for like Batman Forever. Yeah. But even Val Kilmer had the dark thing too, where he couldn't get over it, because that's why he had those dreams, and he would sit down in the chair, and it would go straight to a vision in darkness, and he would be looking at his parents' graves, or he would be touching the dining room table. That was the last time we really saw like a really messed up Batman, like you said. Like this has really felt like his parents were murdered in front of him. Val Kilmer was the same way. Where he just saw him, and he was just like. he didn't talk much either.
Yeah.
That's why I think there was some references for, even though, it was, yes, on the more campy side, it was definitely a 90s action.
Right.
But I felt there were some of that in there because there were some real parts, and Val Kilmer really portrayed that well. And I wonder if even Robert Pattinson looked back at that and was like, man, that'd probably really be good for the film, the way he portrayed that, because Val Kilmer was constantly in his foot. When he wasn't in the suit, he was in his head.
Yeah.
And that's what goes to the point of, if he's not in the suit and he's just Bruce Wayne all the time, he's going to keep thinking about all his traumatic events, and he's probably going to turn into the villain. Yeah. So he's scared of that. So he has to keep that mask on.
Yeah, and I think so, because, like, if you're going to make a movie about the Riddler, I'm sure, like, Matt Reeves and the cast had to rewatch, past Batman iterations that had those characters. So I think that, like, I would not be surprised if they drew some little influences from that movie, especially that movie, because it had both movies have Riddler. Yeah, and you could tell maybe for, like, because I also agree. I really think that Val Kilmer is pretty underrated. I think he's an underrated Batman.
Definitely, I agree.
He was always just like, because I know we were kids when we saw that movie, but I just remember, like, man, like, I liked his build, I just liked his mannerisms in it. Yeah, it doesn't get talked about as much. I know the movie wasn't. I know people favor the Tim Burton films more, which I get why, but I really think that, like, he was just overlooked as Batman. I felt like, man, imagine we got more movies with Val Kilmer after that, and with other directors.
Correct, because Val Kilmer, that year when Batman Forever was releasing, guess what he was doing at the same time? He was doing Heat at the same time. Ooh, so he was having two different films where he was just in the zone. Yeah. And he was probably doing his best roles he's done. Yeah. And even though, yes, we grew up with the guys, we know there's a lot of nostalgia out there nowadays, this and that, but it's true. Mm-hmm. That is our Batman when we grew up, besides, Tim Burton's, of course, you know what I mean? Val Kilmer brought that darkness, that fucked up, and you're right, it did have the Riddler in it. And that was obviously a different kind of Riddler, but it still had the, that, and that's why I think there had to be some inspiration for that here. Some of the lighting was like that at the end, and the fight scene with the green and blue. I was like, that just seems like he's in the cave again, where Riddler, Jim Carrey was posted up at, because when he kills Tommy Lee Jones, it's all blue in a way. I noticed Batman has like this blue tone to it, but this time they changed that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Which is cool. Yeah. But it just had this like, this just like more Batman, like you said. Just like we finally got to see the action. Yeah. Even when he's doing detective shit, figuring out stuff, it was B-Man, bro. Mm-hmm. It was just B-Man kicking ass, taking name. He ain't giving nobody a chance. And it's kind of funny that it's such a man. At first, I was going with ratings, guys. I was saying it was 9.5. There's a couple of things we'll talk about too, but when I saw it a second time, you have to see this a second time. Mm-hmm. There's too much details in a good way. Mm-hmm. The first time that you didn't catch, and I was actually, even in the first viewing, I was trying to figure out the clues in the story. I was trying to be the detective. Mm-hmm. I was like, let me figure this out before the scene does. Yeah. I couldn't. Yeah. It was done well. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe what leads into, like Paul Dano. What do you think about him as the Riddler?
Man, I really dug the whole, because I like how mysterious he felt. I always felt like, my favorite Riddlers, other than Jim Carrey as a childhood favorite, but the video games, like the Arkham games, they just finally kind of took that, like, really just more grounded approach back to, like, being like this sort of like a Zodiac killer. As people compare it to Zodiac, because I could see the influences in there. But I just love how, like, I don't know, if there was a real life Riddler, I feel like, yeah, this would be it. This would be some guy that is some, like, hacker type that would really mess with the media, making you, like, because that's just his power. He's just a brilliant guy, who's doing the most disgusting things, you know. But just to get, which is part of his scheme, which is you find out through the film, he's been building up towards his bringing down politicians, bringing down all these big people, including Bruce Wayne. Which the fact that, like, since we're in spoiler territory, we could say, like, that moment when he just knows that, that he's Bruce Wayne, Batman's Bruce Wayne, and he's just toying with him there. Just like, it got that, like, ooh, feeling, man, this guy's trying to get him by the balls, and you can know that's a good villain. It's always this trying to crack the hero. Yeah, I know we've seen that with the Dark Knight. I know people try to compare, but this one had its own new thing to it. I think.
It really did.
And I think, like, Other than him always, I feel like there's just times in the film like, man, all right, don't scream that much all the time.
Yeah,
You know,
I
a
agree.
few moments, you know.
It was kind of like when I won't lie. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
Because I don't even think we talked about this before. Actually, we never did.
Yeah.
So this is the first time, guys. But he has a good point because I thought the same thing, especially when he yells at the commissioner.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you know, I get they're trying to do like the Heath Ledger thing.
Yeah.
I know that worked out very well.
Yeah.
I won't lie. I did see some of that in his live torture videos. I was like, okay.
That's a dark
I feel like you
moment.
could have been.
There's a few of those.
Yeah,
maybe
I
I'll
wish
bring
if
up.
he was a little bit more quiet and more Zodiac,
Yeah.
then he would have been more like, you better be quiet.
Yeah.
You know, you better shut or I will kill you in front of this camera. You know, it's that.
Yes.
That is scary too.
Because that's
You know?
the best parts when he's quiet, when he's mysterious. That's where I'm like, oh, who is this
Yeah.
guy? You know,
Yeah.
who really is this dude? That's literally having all this access to all these things in the film, like flooding a whole city. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
How did
Yeah.
you do? Literally, because he's a question mark. Really, that's the character. I get it.
Yeah.
You know? But I didn't. I liked it over. I liked him overall. Overall, I liked him. You know, minus those little little nitpicks there. You know, which it's just I feel like Paul Dano does that. Sometimes he'll just get into screaming out loud, which he's done so many times. And I was listening to someone else. They were just saying like, what is your favorite like creep performance of Paul Dano? And they're like, isn't that his entire career? It just made me laugh so hard.
It is because I look at him and I'm like, man, I won't lie, guys. I look at him, man, I fucking hate this guy. You know, I'm like, I can't stand him. Like, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I can't stand like certain actors. Paul Dano's one of those guys. I look at him in a really good movie, and I'm like, oh, they had to choose him. There couldn't be no one else. I'll be honest with you guys. With that. But this one, I felt they did control that creepiness he has. Very well. They balanced it out. You know, he did see. You know what he reminded me of? He reminded me, since he looked like a younger guy too, even though he was probably as much as Bruce Wayne. Right. He kind of looked like that juvenile that just never had a chance. That was always in trouble. You know, the way he would talk, his look, he kind of seemed like that secret psycho that, was kind of weird among the schoolmates. But, he might actually do something bad, but then he actually does. That's him in this movie. And that's why I think there was a lot of good parts. The riddles were good. I liked the Batman, stuff. And I liked how Jeffrey Wright was even trying to figure it out with Batman. Like, you could tell Jeffrey Wright was trying to be like, really? Real, huh? Like, he was trying to get in the mind of Bruce Wayne, of Batman, be like, how does he think? Because I have him here and he's figuring this all out, But it shows that also that Paul Dano, the way he got everyone involved, and towards the first viewing, I was like, okay, the water thing was underwhelming, the ending. I was like, okay. I said, I don't know about that, because the movie built up to so much and it was just flooding Gotham. Like, come on, dude. Like, that's just a simple terrorist act you could have done from the beginning. But when I saw it a second time, I know what he meant now about killing the mayor and flooding the city. Because killing the mayor is like, well, why even have her when she's probably going to turn corrupt anyway? So might as well do away with it and let's just start rebuilding now from us as Riddler followers and people who really want to build Gotham to a better place. Kill her off, put someone else in office, so really states the point that she's going to get corrupted anyway. So this is all talk coming from her. And then why not have the ocean come in? And just the way he did it was okay with the bombs. That's great. And just wash away Gotham. I got that fine. He wanted to clean Gotham. Almost like what Batman was doing, but in a different way. More, terrorist way, obviously. And he was fucking with the wrong people, and he was getting into deep shit. The Riddler this time, but he was like, Batman's going to clean Gotham. And that's why he tells him, you're the inspiration. You're the one. I think he says something like that. Where he says something like that this is, if someone tells him that you started this, and it's kind of true because it made other crazy people think, oh, I can do what he's doing, dress up in a costume and make a difference. But Paul Dano was hurt more. It was a deeper pain, so he had to go about it that way.
And that's why I really like the fact that when you realize that he was also an orphan. They both are orphans of different ways. That's why I like the fact that it says we're both orphans, but you've had money, you've had wealth, so you were always like fine no matter what. But us, we're stuck in this nasty orphanage full of kids who are dying and stuff. And you really see like, oh, you understand the perspectives of why he became that, and why they almost they felt like they both met their match a little bit in this movie. Just that moment felt like they both have a similar kind of like backstory. One comes from different places, obviously, wealth, which has all been his target against wealthy people.
Right. And then that's true because it almost kind of reminds Batman, like, you know what? I know his story. Because remember when he goes to the orphanage and he finally sees the projector and he looks at his face, even though he knows like the next target is him,
Right.
you know, I felt like in that scene, maybe that gave Robert Pattinson more of an outlook on life, being like, yeah, he didn't. I grew up for money, and it helped a little bit. I'll be honest with you, and I did have somebody. I had Alfred, so I could have turned out like Riddler too. But it's true, I had a better outcome of the same situation, and I think that's what Riddler was like. You know, we're talking about here, trying to portray like, look, you came from all that, you know, all this stuff like that, or you know, I don't think he didn't really say that in this film, but you can tell that's where he was going. Like, I had nothing. I was truly an orphan. I had no friends. I had no butler. I had no money. Your father pulled out the funds when he died. Well, he thought he pulled out the funds, which he most likely probably did. Probably have to watch it a third time, guys, to really check out that scene. But you know, that's why after the fund, the mob started taking over it, which was the real reason why the money was gone. In a way, was the mob was trying to take over it.
Right.
But that's why Paul Dano was punishing them too, because he knew that. You know, he's like, let me tell you something, like. But going back to what I'm saying about Robert Pattinson, he probably looked at Riddler and was like, you know what? He was an orphan. I could have saved him probably. You know, he's the reason why I need to be here. You know, because I don't want no one to turn out like him. You know, because even though he's a villain and he's psycho, and even he tells him you're nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a way, it's him too. You know, because look what he's doing. He's dressed up as a bat.
Yeah.
You know, but he's in a crime scene. He's making the right decisions.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's almost his equal. Maybe more so than the Joker, really. The way they did this film.
Yeah.
The way they did this one.
Right.
Because it's true, it's like, what did Paul Dano really have? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of made Batman really think that I do need to save people like him. I do need to look out for someone like him because I don't want them to turn out like that.
Yeah.
You know, not only is he going to grow up and probably fuck me up, but, you know, I can't have that. And that's why that little boy comes in the picture.
Yeah.
When he looked at him and be like, man, I know how you feel. I mean, just his dad died, not his mom, but still it was a parent that died. And it had to deal with fathers.
Yeah.
You know, fathers, sins of the father. You know, something about fathers. Something about like a dad had to deal with a lot about this, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know what that meant, but maybe it really is true. A father figure is, you know, maybe important. Maybe, you know, there's a deeper meaning to it. But
That's why I wanted to bring up, too, one of my favorite parts of the movie is when the Riddler exposes what his family did, what his dad did, hiding the... You know, the whole secret behind the mom being in Arkham, all that crazy shit, killing some reporter. Like, was it did he kill the reporter? I can't remember what it was, but he did something shady. And
they set him up.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, he questions, like, wait, I'm being this hero doing this for my family's legacy, and the fact that my dad did something evil and corrupt, you know, that the things I'm fighting for, that I'm actually doing this for because of them. And I like that question is moral. The fact that Riddler really got him by his balls, really thinking about that. You think you are the hero now? You think the Waynes have been good? You know?
Yeah.
That stuff was cool. I thought, like, that was a good, like, wow. I felt like, ooh.
Everyone is imperfect.
Yeah.
Everyone has the skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned question, Riddler's all about questions. He made Batman question himself in his life.
Yeah.
So this might be one of the truest Riddlers we'll ever get because that he not only was it because of the Riddler because he had riddles, and he tried to see how smart Batman was. Yeah. But now talking about that, it made him even ask questions and cause his own riddles. What does it take to be a Wayne? You know, and but he kind of went on his own little Riddler story just for like a couple minutes, like he's finding about his father. And all that. He really didn't kill the reporter though, because Alfred told him the truth. Right. That it was, he didn't want him dead. He just wanted to scare him a little bit to say, "Don't do that, dude. You know, I'm really trying to do good." But you know, obviously Falcone is a mob guy. What else is he gonna do? He's got a billionaire in his pocket. Right. He sees those dollar signs. Yeah, I got to do something to fuck this guy up so I can take over. Yeah. So, but going back to that, it made even Batman have a question mark on his head, like a fucking Metal Gear Solid character. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Just like you know, brink. You know, like oh shit, maybe I am a hypocrite. But what was good is he didn't know though. Right. You know, because why would your father tell you those things? Anyway, even in the future, would your dad really tell you, like, those things, you know? He would probably, but when it was the right time, when you can take it. Yeah. But Dano's like, hey, I'm going to give you your own riddles, but it's about your family. Why don't you go figure this out? This is the real question. And that's why, you know, he had the question mark on his head. And it was just like, wow, they really got to him, you know, pretty much. You know, he really got to him and made Batman think, but it's speaking of like the Riddler stuff and the Paul Dano, it really did do that. And like the father, you know, it's like, who am I going to become? So you know what? I'm going to be this then. This just proves that I need to be the Bat.
Yeah, and it's like literally this whole. I think the whole movie really has. You're right. It has like a father theme. It's like a sins of our father theme, and which we'll get to more parts of this movie. You know, like especially with Catwoman, and you know the fact that like there's a reveal there that she is the daughter of.
Yeah, the daughter of like Falcone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the daughter of Falcone.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is.
Yeah.
But anyways, well, you can segue into that part. We could even rework that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's fine. But yeah, no, that's true. The Falcone thing, you know, like you said, the daughter thing. I had to look that up too. But what did you think about that?
Yeah, so I was going to ask. So I have questions here for really that I was going to ask you because you're the comic book expert, and this is one part of the movie. And I know this is still part of a review, and this is something that I've been like asking myself, and I don't know why I didn't look it up, but I want to ask you. So how accurate is this film to the comics? Like the fact that Selena Kyle, Catwoman, like the big reveal is that she's the daughter of Carmine Falcone. Was that ever in the comics? Was there ever iterations of that? Because I, even as a Batman fan, never knew that until this movie.
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't either.
Okay.
But I even had to look that up myself.
Okay.
I what I know about Batman, guys, is like not much, but I know the basis or synopsis of certain stories.
Yeah.
I know this is based, obviously, the most obvious one is The Long Halloween. You know, that's based off of that. You know what I mean? I know it's based off of Frank Miller's style, too. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So, I did have to look that up just to make sure it was canon because I thought it was another thing that, you know, Hollywood put in there just to kind of have a filler for why Catwoman's so intense, you know. But it actually is true from what I saw. And it does look like she figures out sometime in some iteration of Catwoman that she starts suspecting that her father really is Falcone.
Yeah.
So that really was a thing, which I'm glad it was. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was hoping it was part of some kind of storyline.
Right.
Because if it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like I would have been like,
yeah.
I actually that would have put a damper on the movie, guys. To be honest with you, and yeah, because it was just like I was just like, oh, when I first saw the first time there, that was one of the main things too. I was like, but I think I looked it up on the way out, and I was just like, okay, good. It was part of some kind of arc, but in terms of Batman himself, the detective work, all that stuff, that is truly what we needed to see this whole time.
Yes.
We needed to get into what we talked about too after we left. What did we talk about? The psyche of Batman.
Yeah.
That's what we were getting into finally. Yes, we saw him having pain.
Right.
But what about inside his head? What's really going on in there? Yeah. You know what I mean? And this really proved that, man, he really is fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I mean, I thought in terms of that, the character-wise, it did it justice. Because when you talk to other Batman fans, and I've been reading on, like, you know, social media, some actual real artists that they follow and stuff.
Yeah.
There's some guy that, his name's Ian Laurie. I have to give him some credit because I love his psycho style. It's kind of like this, like, twisted Ed and Eddie fucking crazy art style. But he loves Batman. That's his guy. And he went to go see it twice, and he even said, like, what a film. And he says, you have not seen... And he even says something about Batman Returns. Yes, everyone's Tim Burton's, maybe, you know, and stuff like that. But this one, he said it felt relieving finally seeing Batman be done actual justice. Yeah. Like actually Batman. Mm-hmm. And funny how it's Robert Pattinson really delivering that. Yeah. And who would have thought, right? I know people had their thoughts, but, you know, people were starting to come around, well, it's been that kind of era where, you know, people are taking on roles that you never think and they just kill it.
Yeah.
And this was one of those.
Yeah.
And even that guy said it. You know, look him up, guys. His name's Ian Laurie. He does a lot of stuff. You can find him on Instagram and Twitter. Great, cool guy.
Yeah.
Great art. But I do believe that it did follow at least the character of Batman very well.
It did.
And it did follow the psyche of him, which I think we needed to see most of all, you know.
Yeah, and I just love what we talked about. He just felt so grounded, you know. It just felt more like, this would be a Batman. If I know that, like, Nolan's Batmans, that Batman would also could exist in our world, obviously, with the technology aspect, you know. But, like, this one, I feel like, again, if he goes to the guy who really saw his parents get killed, it's like, I just believe he just pulled it off, you know. Like, that this would be this messed up in the head Batman. And it's cool that even Matt Reeves was inspired by, like, Taxi Driver for this Batman. Because Taxi Driver is another movie that was about a guy who's fucked up in the head and
quiet
and trying to, you know, he patrols the streets, trying to do his own little vigilante justice. And I like it in this movie for some reason when he's riding the motorcycle he puts the suit in his backpack, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I believe it. Like it's him going incognito instead of having to drive the Batmobile everywhere he goes. You know.
Right.
He has his own little like incognito ways to get in the suit. You know, I like how you really see put eyeliners on that too. And talked about earlier.
And you didn't really need to say, and I liked it too because they didn't really need to introduce the vehicle.
No,
they didn't say this is the Bat Cycle or are you gonna take the Bat Cycle. He just went on it.
Yeah,
like it was just a regular fucking crotch rocket.
Yeah,
like I got a Ninja, but it's painted black. Let's fucking go out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's tweaked up a little bit because of me, but let me go out there. You know?
Yeah.
And the grounded part is for sure. That's for sure. That's this whole film.
Yeah.
All grounded.
Yeah.
You know, the characters are fantasy, but it felt like it was almost like, okay, how Nolan wanted to do a real life Batman.
Yeah.
I believe that one too.
Yeah.
This one also felt like that same realm of, okay, I could see him in the real world doing shit.
And more like if this was like a street Batman, like a guy that's actually patrolling the streets.
Urban Batman in the urban jungle.
Yeah, where I feel like I love the Dark Knight films, and we'll get into this other topic, but I just feel like those movies felt like he only becomes Batman when the action calls to it.
Yeah.
There's never times where we actually get to spend time with him as Batman sometimes. I know we have fun moments in those movies. Those movies are great. I'm not trying to talk smack on them at all, but I just think that like those Batmans just felt like more Bruce Wayne he's always just conflicted if he wants to be Batman or or just Bruce Wayne. You know, he just feels like it always just goes back and forth. I feel like those were those movies.
Yeah.
Where this one he knows he's Batman. He's Batman.
Yeah.
He ain't gonna break away. That's why that line's important. He says, you know, this is his family legacy. I'm not gonna my Bruce Wayne life, that doesn't matter. That's nothing. I don't care about it. It's about that being the Batman.
Yeah. And Alfred, that's why I think Alfred kind of accepts that like I don't know how it is to lose it. Well, he does because he's been with the family for a generation at least. You know what I mean? No more. And and I thought Andy Serkis did a decent job. And the only reason why also is I think he did even a decent job too was because he wasn't too involved. Yeah. You know, which is I'm not saying that Andy Serkis wouldn't be able to do a full film of just Alfred, but I'm just saying like the amount of screen time they gave him was fine.
Yeah.
Like for Andy Serkis as Alfred, that's a good amount of screen time. He'll have a little bit more, I know, in the next one.
Right.
But it's true because it really did feel like he's in it. And then when Alfred looks at his eye things, which were badass, we definitely got to talk about the technology here.
Yeah.
You know, but his eye scanners, his eye recorders.
Yeah.
You know, when he looks at the little boy when it stopped on it, and then his reaction where he kind of tilted his head a bit like this. Mm-hmm. You know, when like a parent looks at you and you know you're going through it, and they tilt their head kind of like to the corner like bad, and they have that really sad face like fuck. You know, like damn, he knows that, man. You know, like. He's just really still, I mean, he's always going to be like this probably. And the Batman is just going to be what it is. I can't stop him because one, like Robert Pattinson says to him, you're not my father. Yeah. And he knows that. And that's why he says, well, I'm well aware. Or else I would stop you from doing what the fuck you're doing now. He really would. And Alfred would probably do that. But Alfred's like, you know what? This is, you know, he's my master still. Yeah. He's a Wayne. He's a kid that's hurt. I know he wants to do good. He's putting his life on the line. But in a way, I don't really have say, really. You know, even though I've been with the family for generations, you know. But I think that's going to change, especially with there was a little bit more hope for him. And after this scene where he holds Andy Serkis' hand for telling him the truth about his father, that's where Batman, Bruce Wayne, really opened up and been like, things are not. I still have things I have to lose. You know, it's not just my parents. I still have Alfred, and I still have also the city. You know, that's my, and I have Gordon. You know, because he's also another great guy on the side.
Yeah.
You know, which Jeffrey Wright, he convinced me as a great Gordon.
So good.
Beautiful Gordon.
So good.
Loved him as Gordon.
And those two, it felt like, you know, the Andy Serkis and Pattinson have good, they had actually good chemistry in the movie.
Yeah.
But him and Jeffrey Wright, though, had fantastic chemistry. I felt like those two almost made the movie for me at times.
I didn't think twice about it.
Yeah, and I just love, like, their dynamic, and you just love how this Commissioner Gordon, like I know we've seen iterations where he's just so committed to Batman, but this one he really is like I'm by your side no matter what, man. Yeah. Like
I mean, dude, the guy fucking helps him get out of the precinct in front of the guys looking at the cops are looking at him, man. And even Jeffrey Wright's telling him, yeah, you're gonna get out of here because he knows Batman's the only good thing in the city. He can't trust even his own cops after all that shit. So what's he gonna do?
Great moment, by the way, when he sees that one cop at the bar, or was it the nightclub in the movie where he breaks his nose and then he shows up in that precinct in that room, and because that whole scene of the Batman versus the cops was so interesting. You know, there's like a big heated moment of like, let's take off his mask after getting blown up, right after the because
he got involved in the hostage situation, which is another great thing. The cops, but I love that too. But that was a great go scene, ahead, yeah.
But just the fact that like I don't know, it's just a good build up. All the cops don't trust Batman, and you think he goes outside with Gordon to talk, and the fact that like Gordon, he's trying to act like he's like angry talking and trying to talk him down, but he's really just like, I want to give you the keys.
Yeah.
You know?
And he does it good too. He does it really subtle. You know, like I couldn't even figure out what he was saying. I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, he's really giving it to Batman.
And all the cops are just out there like looking as if like, yeah, he's gonna get like talked down too, you know, by Gordon. Whereas like the complete opposite. It's so good. That sequence is awesome.
Yeah, and I did like that too. You know why? Because you know, I that's a good scene, obviously, which I thought they weren't going to put music anyway.
Right.
But the whole scene of the first time he gets up, we've seen it before, where you know you try to take off a mask in other movies. Like, obviously, we can't think of it, guys, but. You know, we have seen movies where they try to take off a vigilante or a mask, even if it's not a superhero movie, and they get up like, get the fuck off me. Mm-hmm. But I like the second time where the other cop comes behind me and say, no, just grab it. And he grabs his head again. Oh, yeah. And then, you know, Robert Pattinson's like, you know, fucking decks him in the chest, bro. And the guy goes flying. He's like, no. And none of the guys want to fuck with him. You can tell he clears out the room by himself until Jeffrey's like, calm down. And I like they accentuated that, especially when, I don't know who that other guy is that comes in with like that talk, hey, you know, the Godfather comes in talking like the Godfather.
Like the chief, right?
He's like the chief, probably. I don't know what his role was, but I like the way he came in and has said he stepped in a hostage situation. Like, why you had someone who's not official, not police, not trained, not, you know, federally, you know, or state or, you know, authority, you know, he didn't go through the ropes, but, and you bring just some guy here to try to defuse the situation. I love that throughout the whole thing, because I've always wanted that in a movie like that, where just like, why don't they realize that this is not a good thing? Like what I'm trying to say is, wouldn't they have trouble with that? And I love how Matt Reeves emphasized that. Yeah. Like he investigated, like I like the way he talks too. You know, he just sounds really serious though. You know, like you invest. You know, he stood in a hostage situation. This is bad. This is on you. You brought Batman in, and now he killed the DA. That's how they look at it. But I don't think the other guys would have done anything any way better. Right. At the end of the day, and I think that's why they're mad too, because they're like, he has more balls than the cops do. And I think that it's all, of course, the jealousy thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a cop, and this guy's getting in easy working on crime scenes. Yeah. Like, but at the end of the day, dude, like, he's proved to be fucking smarter than all you. Yeah. You know? And he's here for the people. He's not beating up cops. Yes. He's not doing crimes. He's doing vigilante justice. And it is illegal to take the law into your own hands. Of course. You know, in the real world. But at the end of the day, what happens if you're just so good and you actually may be making a difference, that there's one good guy in there that will help you and knows what you're trying to do, even though he can lose for it. But at the end of the day, it's for the greater good. Yeah. And look what happened. And Jeffrey Wright was great. And it's true, I didn't think twice about it. Even when I first saw him, I didn't even think, I was like, okay, it's different, you know? Right. But I was just like, wow. Like, he's guy-like. Jeffrey Wright, I would love him to be Gordon for a long time. Yeah. And you're right. And you're right, too. They had great chemistry. I like seeing those guys together. I don't mind seeing both of them together, kind of like, you know, just doing the thing like they did here. Yeah. You know? But I don't know. We'll see in the next one, because I feel like, you know, from some of the rumors about the sequel, you know? You know? I mean, I don't know. But we'll get to that.
All
right, what else you got, man? What else you got?
We were already talking about this.
This is great.
We were already talking about, like, you know, iteration with the Dark Knight. So right. The next question here, like, how does this Batman film truly differ from the other iterations? Like, and what are some, and why do you think some fans are really saying it's as good or better than the Dark Knight? And I know we talked a little bit of it, but let's really get in depth in that. You know, knowing you, especially you're the comic book guy, and you also love Christopher Nolan as a director.
Yeah, I love Nolan, man. Yeah, Nolan's my favorite. Yeah. Or one of your favorites too, I know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, to answer that question, I would definitely say it's probably because why people are probably saying how it's different than the other iterations is really just what we talked about already. Yeah. The way it was grounded, like you mentioned. Yeah. The way they emphasized the fear of Batman in those beginning scenes. Mm-hmm. The way they had Batman more in the costume than ever, but also being at the same time in those detective scenes. Yeah. You know, like I think that's the difference, is really getting into the psyche of Batman. What is he thinking? You know what I mean? Not just like him. In other movies, we already got the solution from him right away. Right. Just like how a lot of people say, like, oh, I'm tired of them fucking plot armoring Batman because they make him so smart, like he has a fucking plan for everything. Yeah. You know? Because at the end of the day, the other Batmans kind of were like that. Mm-hmm. You know? Except Nolan kind of did put in some kind of failures for him, which was great. Yeah. You know? And that's why I think with this one, there was more of that, where it was just like, now we're getting to the way he's thinking. And all you needed was the eyes, the silence, you know, the right situation, And I think that it was grounded in such a way where everything, I think they also had a lot to work off of from the previous films, so they kind of already knew what not to do, and what to do. Yeah. That's why I do think there's some influences from even some Nolan stuff in here, because it shows that, well, those were great. Like, you can't ignore those. Like, some of those just were good for this film too. Yeah. So in ways, there were similarities, but overall, it had to deal with, I think, let's start with the simple stuff. Yeah. Gotham's presence, that, like you said, the outworld, the world feel. Yeah. It had that kind of like, I really am in a true Gotham this time. Because Nolan, it was Gotham, but it just looked like a regular city with no damage. There was no, like, I won't lie, there was hardly any character to the city. Yeah. There was no character to the city. It was just like... so normal. Yeah, and Nolan, I think Nolan tried to make up for that by giving us a really realistic Batman, which I know that's why. Right. Nolan's realistic Batman had those cinematography. Val Kilmer's and Batman Returns, and even, Batman and Robin... it was just the 90s. It was a different time. It was really campy, where they just went all out with the colors and the fighting, and the costume designs were just like straight out of the comic book, but to the point where it's like, okay, you could have done a little bit more tweaks, but that's why if you look back even then, there's some similarities still a lot, because I don't think it's completely different from the others. Yeah. But it does have more of, like you mentioned, always the grounded, the fear that he presented. The more Batman in the suit, the way it was just almost like, man, like, this is definitely a different world. This is like street Batman. Yeah. Like, he's younger, so he's year 2. We got that in Batman Begins and all that, but they didn't call it year 2. They didn't really do that. It was almost like he was already accepted as Batman, and he didn't have issues still. Right. It was like, okay, like, I guess he's mentally okay with everything now. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he still continues to be Batman. This one, they really showed you, like, man, this is the psychology of Batman. He is also a sick dude. Mm-hmm. He's sick, but he's doing it in, of course, the most healthiest way of justice. Right. And obviously the red that they put in the film was all red. Oh, so it was all red. So what did that have to represent? Well, what did the red have to represent? That's another thing that I was trying to think about, too. What does the red represent so much about this film? Yeah. You know what I mean? Does it represent... Because even in the club, you saw that. Yeah. You saw the red everywhere. What was up with that? Even when she would walk, even when Catwoman was walking to the club of the clubs, not the Iceberg Lounge, but the one underneath that, where the DA was hanging out, she had a red wig. So it's kind of like, what did the red have to kind of like deal with? They were trying to do color themes here a lot more this time. Yeah. Nolan, Dark Knight was influenced by Heat with all the blues and all the crazy stuff, which is awesome. Yeah. But what was Reeves thinking when he was doing the red? I think that's a big difference from the other films. Yeah. What was up with the red? Did it have to deal with, like, it's just like, did the red have to represent, like, the deaths of people and how it's, just made everything darkness? Yeah. Or did red really represent the anger, the highest peak of emotions for Batman, and the city at the time? You know what I mean? Yeah. The mayor got murdered. Batman's out for only 2 years. The Riddler's now here. Yeah. What did that have to represent? And there was a lot of death that happened, Yeah. And I think it was, I think there is a lot of similarities, but I think those differences would be the most differences. Yeah. Especially Robert Pattinson's Batman, let's be honest here. Yeah. That one was just like more silent. He was just more whatever. Yeah. Even though he was silent, we have seen that before. Yeah. And it's hard for me not to not compare, but to go back to, like, Val Kilmer's. Yeah. Because when I watched some parts again recently, and I was just like, he was quiet too. Even when he was Batman, he didn't talk much at all. He was just like, he would talk like maybe to Chris O'Donnell, and he'd be like, you feel better? Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Like, it was all here. It was all emotion. You felt like this aura around Batman. There was something you couldn't see, but there was this aura around him and Robert Pattinson. Yeah. But this one had obviously the more realistic feel. It had really like a bat in an urban jungle. What happens, a bat in the jungle. Like the animal world. Bat in the jungle. Is he going to survive? He's got predators all over the place. Yeah. What is he going to do? It really felt like that, and it was just like, you can say it was different, but there was also a lot of similarities too. And it was great, and it's fine, but it had that. I think the key words here are grounded. Yeah. The more Batman, the more Pattinson represented himself, the crime scene, the detective, but mostly the true psyche, the mental part of everything in him. Yeah. That's what we were getting into, what's really going on in Batman's head. If he's so dark, why haven't we got there yet? This movie did that.
I agree. I really, and that's what I feel like. I agree with you. I think that's what really separates it from the other ones, for sure. You know?
Yeah. What did you think though?
I really like I said. I really think that, like, this time it's like almost like a combination of everything we like about Batman at times. I feel like they take the best of whatever iterations came before and it has a whole new flavor, like we talked about with Gotham. And I really think that this Batman, like this, at least this Gotham, it just feels like it's, you know, the most immersive and atmospheric. It's got flavor and it's got like this artistry. True. Like, you could tell there's a vision behind this world that was, you know, created for this version of Batman. And because like the Nolan Bat, you're right. It just feels like ordinary cities we just see on the news or something. You know? Just like we know that's Chicago. We know that's
all
LA
that stuff
in some parts. You know,
exactly.
And it's cool. It's cool, and those are just. And I always love those movies for what they are. You know, but and as just a fan of the character before even those movies came out, it's always just nice to see always a new take on this character for some reason.
Yes.
I'm one of those guys. I know people love more consistency because I know the MCU has done that with bringing, you know, having Downey Jr. throughout that whole thing, which is amazing. That's a whole other conversation. But like I know people complain like, oh, we always have new Batmans, and it's always like, you know what? There's just so much like this is just a character. There's just so much comics of Batman and all these superheroes, and I really think like at the end of the day, you go to the comic book store, like how much iterations of the same hero do you see all over the place? There's so much iterations. And everyone's got their own favorites, and which is fine. I feel like that's just the way it is becoming with the movies. It's its own new flavor, and I think it's a flavor I kind of want to buy more at the grocery store. I just want to keep watching this, keep indulging myself with this.
I even want to see it a fucking third time. I even want to go see it again. Like it's that good. But you're right, and that's one thing that is completely true. The iterations. Think about what's happening in comics all the time. How many graphic novels are there of the same character? You know what I mean? You know, how many different Batmans are the ones that kill and don't kill?
Right.
You know, how many Spider-Mans are there where there's a dark Spider-Man where he turns into a beast and kills everybody, and he's just your friendly neighborhood. You know, and that's the point, and that's true, is because everyone has their own iteration. It's in the comics. That is very true. And they're doing it in the movies. Look, you have to have iteration. At the end of the day, yes, most of the time, the same character being casted only a few years apart, I think is the real issue. You know, because it's so like, soon. And yes, we can always talk about every day, oh, it's business. It's business. It's true, but that business really kills the hype for a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we just got fucking Batfleck. And what was released a year ago? The Justice League Snyder Cut. It's already it was the anniversary yesterday or some shit.
Already a year ago?
Or it's already a year or some shit from what I read. It's already. I know, a fucking year already. And that I at the end of the day, you know, Ben Affleck was great. But technically, that was already a year ago. You know, like already, and now we're getting a new Batman. You know, it's acceptable in the comics for sure because there's always a year. There's certain stories and runs that only last like half a year, you know, or maybe something like that, and then the character may change depending on the writer you have. Because if you look at certain writers, like like right now, there's a guy named Donny Cates. He did The King in Black for like Spider-Man, but Frank Miller with Batman did like a real like dark, questionable like detective shit. Like that's why I think where the red comes from, I think is a reference to like the Frank Miller because he likes that red. You know, like he did the Spirit. You know, had the red tie and all that. He's something about that. City. Some since the red. You know, something about the red, and I think that's what they're referencing with Frank Miller's like red style, possibly. You know, and that's true. Frank Miller had a different one. You know, who else had a different one? Who else was it? Dang it, there was Frank Miller. I don't know some of the writers there. I'll be honest with you. But at the end of the day, it was just like, dang man, like it's like the iterations are so much now, you know? And it's just like, and it's like in the movies it hurts. Because in a way, I feel bad for you DC fans that are out there, Batman fans, because, you know, don't get me wrong, you guys have been getting screwed. I'm going to be honest with you. Let's put this on record. You guys have been getting fucked, and I feel bad for you guys. You know, I'm more of a Marvel guy, but let's be honest here. You guys, I hope you guys get something good, and I think the Batman is a good start for you guys. I really do think so. And this iteration, even though we've had, like, dude, it's been only 10 years and we already had like fucking 3 Batmans. There should only be one Batman every like 10 years. Or at least every 9 years or something like that. You know? Imagine if it jumped from Christian Bale to this Batman. We got something as good as Christian Bale. Oh shit, we're getting like this Batman. Look how sweeter this would have been. Not saying it wasn't sweet. But there's so many iterations because of business to get it out there. it kind of kills that, you know, and it just kind of felt like all the stuff in between, like with Man of Steel and Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman. You know, they had a plan for it, but unfortunately, we all know what happened with that Zack Snyder shit. You know, but you know, we there's a couple of things, you know, I did want to mention about that too that we talked about, you know, in the future, you know, that might happen, and
the fact that like this was almost Ben Affleck's Batman movie. Imagine another reality. This would have been the movie, just not in Pattinson. It would have been Ben Affleck as this Batman.
Imagine just him like super intense. Like I won't lie, we probably would have definitely saw the more martial arts Batman. Yeah. Because I think it's true. I think Ben Affleck really brought a lot more martial arts, like real Batman fighting.
This one had it. Scene,
yeah. This one, yeah, that warehouse fight scene. But yeah, and this one had still your more brawler type. Yeah. Like you know what it had? It had like kickboxing style. Mm-hmm. Like it had more boxing. It didn't have like Nolan's where he got those two guys. I know we're comparing a lot with Nolan guys, but that's the most recent thing in the generation right now. Because we can always go back to the 90s, but that was a different time.
Right.
Right now we're in our time where we did experience the Nolan, the Ben Affleck, and now we're experiencing Robert Pattinson's version.
Yeah.
You know, I think we would have got more martial arts Batman. I think as brutal as this was with the fight scenes, I think Ben Affleck would have hit harder. Yeah. Because even in the warehouse scene, I mean, that guy was just, dude, he punches a face, you know, to the fucking the floorboards. Yeah. I mean, shit, dude. You know what I mean? But he had some like judo. He had some Steven Seagal shit when he got shot in back of the head, and then he did some of that Aikido. You know, he just went all in on that, and that's why this one is cool too, because it's more like brutal boxing. It's like boxing without the gloves. Yeah. That's what this is. You know, it's boxing without the gloves, and he does deflect, but obviously, but it was more like okay, I'm gonna get my style, but it was because even Alfred told him I could teach you how to fight. They went with that storyline where Alfred taught him how to fight. Mm-hmm. Remember where Alfred was that iteration of he was an actual MI6 or he was a secret agent, but he trained Bruce Wayne. It looks like they went with that, but they did it very subtle when Alfred said in the hospital bed, like, I could teach you how to fight, you know. But I was like, oh, they went with that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when English and over there in Europe, it's more boxing. Yeah. More boxing, you know, fist fights, you know. That's why this one he was so brutal, because it was like kind of like Snatch with like where Brad Pitt is fighting in there, and it's just like the bare knuckle fighting, bare knuckle boxing. That's why I felt his style was like, we're gonna do boxing, but I'm gonna fuck you up because I mean I have gloves, but they're as hard as fucking bone, and you're gonna get hurt. Mm-hmm. And it's just more like boom. That's why the way his punches were very concentrated. They weren't wild really. They were. He had like Pattinson had like this really like not stiff, but this really formulated punches. Even when he was smashing that Riddler thug in the end, he was doing like perfect like jabs. It wasn't like haymakers, you know. It was just like concentrated punches, you know. Yeah. So the iteration part, you know, it kind of sucks for a lot of fans too, because I know they want something already. Just give us the movie, you know. Right. You know, and I don't mean to compare it. If Marvel's doing so good with so many they have, and they're trying to ground everything, like with the stuff they're coming out with, like Moon Knight. And other stuff, like they're brought back the Netflix shows and Disney. You could tell they're trying to get grounded again, maybe. Yeah. But I know that's what the Batman fans want, and I'm very happy for fans because, Batman's one of our favorite heroes, guys. I mean, it goes. I mean, he's one of our top guys. We both grew up with him too. But I know there's more experts in terms of the comic realm than me, for sure. Mm-hmm. But that's why this one here, I think this is DC's like saving grace. Yeah. I just hope they don't get too involved. I just hope they don't. But I hope they keep with what Matt Reeves does, because if we're supposedly going to be getting the rumored either Mr. Freeze or even the Court of Owls, which we'll talk about in a little bit, guys. Yeah. But speaking of your question, bro, there's so much. Yeah, you're right. Just the iterations. That's what's cool. That's what gives it the excuse of why we're seeing a different superhero, because it happens all the time.
Which I wanted to go back when you explaining like the Ben Affleck fight, sequences from like the warehouse and BVS. I think it's very interesting that because both that his fighting in those movies felt like in the Arkham games when you just do the fighting part, just fighting everything, versus it's like this new one is almost like the Arkham games without that like crazy fight scene. It's almost like this one felt like the Arkham where you explore. This felt like the live action Arkham movie. I felt like this would have been like. Yeah. I feel like Matt Reeves could have probably played those games and been like, yeah, this is how the Batman movie should be, while listening to Nirvana in the background. You know?
Nirvana and Batman. Oh shit! And that song. Imagine playing. That's what we should do. We should play fucking Arkham. Does any of the Arkham games and just fucking Asylum probably.
Yeah.
And then just put on that Nirvana. Just put on Nirvana like that song. Yeah.
That'd be perfect. Or even like driving the Batmobile and like free flowing and whatever.
And doing the detective shit in the jails. That's very true. Because remember, even Reeves was about to do an Arkham series on HBO Max.
Well, that's what he's mentioned recently.
That's what he mentioned.
That's what's supposed to be that. And we didn't even talk about Penguin in the movie. What do you think of the Penguin?
Oh, guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, dude. When I saw it a second time, I was like, he's one of my favorites. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's on my top 3 like favorite things about this movie.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably exaggerating, but you know what I mean, guys. I mean, Colin Farrell, the way his facial expressions, even with the makeup, and the way he talked, and his eyes, like just his mannerisms.
Yeah.
You know, as Penguin, I thought this guy. I was like, I won't lie to you, dude. I was always waiting to see him again in the movie. The second time I saw it, I was like, I love watching the Penguin. I love Colin Farrell the way he did this role. They actually, I wasn't say he was a bad role because you know, I mean, Colin Farrell's cool.
Right.
You know, I never had any doubts about that because I was like, okay, it's the Penguin, really.
Yeah.
You know, but he did way better than I thought, and I loved his character situation. Excuse me, in the movie, he was in the middle actually. Yeah. He wasn't a separate crime boss. He was nothing. No. He was still working for Falcone, and he was almost the Rat, but he wasn't, which shows you. Well, if Falcone was the Rat, then the Penguin. This is almost also, if you really think about it, like Penguin's upcoming story. His because they're already doing a series. They already greenlighted it.
Yeah.
But I felt like, in a way, you don't need that because I felt like the Batman explained all that. Like, okay, the Penguin was involved in organized crime. You can start that story with any character who's in organized crime.
Yeah.
But this is the Penguin. How did he get to that high status?
Right.
Oh, so not only is this a Batman film, but there's a little mini story for the Penguin going on.
Yeah.
You know, of how he's going to take over the city and how it's building up to maybe him being the villain too.
Yeah.
Well, obviously he will be because they did set that up, of course, and he's in the movie, so you know he's going to be in there in the sequels.
Yeah.
You know, so it's almost like a mini story for Penguin and how he became the fearsome little man.
Yeah.
You know, the fearsome little mafia boss. And it's and that's why I loved seeing Colin Farrell, dude, as a Penguin. It was
so
great.
Good, and especially like. The makeup was great. Like, if you didn't tell me it was Colin Farrell, I would have thought it was just a new actor.
It didn't even look like makeup. No. It looked like a real guy that would just like had that face and with that fucking silver tooth, which added a lot of character. Actually.
Yeah, and you could rarely even see Colin Farrell in there, which is good because he just embodied this whole new character. But there was one shot I did catch his normal face. I don't know if you caught it, but it was the part where he's getting chased by Batman, and he thought he died in that fire behind him, and then it cuts to that close up of him turning around. Like there, I could see that's Colin Farrell. I could just see that in a good way.
I didn't catch that.
It was really quick. It's in the trailer. I can even just bring that up. But
yeah, let's bring it up.
You can literally see his face. Like it felt like that's Colin Farrell, just from that angle only. But that's impressive. Out of all the whole movie, he got away with almost just being like a whole new guy. Like it's crazy.
And I like Batman's and him interactions in the club. Like Batman wasn't busting him yet. You know what I mean? He saw him even exchanging drugs. But what did he do? Yeah, I'll stay quiet. I'll get him later because he's not the main target right now. He's a little guy. You know what I mean? That's what he'll go. So choosing your targets. You know, and it's like Batman already learned like he probably fucked up before by going after too many guys and just like this is not going to happen. I need to concentrate. And I like that scene because it was almost like, dude, it was almost like, you know, speaking of references, it's the Zodiac like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But I know it's something we talked about before, and I think didn't you say or didn't someone say that even Reeves was kind of inspired by like also Seven?
Yeah, Seven was a big influence according to this interview I saw.
And that's probably where the red comes from too, as a reference to the movie, because it was all like a bad ending, really.
Yeah.
A good ending for Batman, but everybody else had a bad time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like I felt that too. It really was that dark detective stuff. You know, even the cinematography, the dark wood in the hallways. Yeah. You know, and only a little bit of lighting on the characters. You know, it showed you they were entering hell. Yeah. You know, in a way, and I felt like it was more Seven and Zodiac. Yeah. Like it was a perfect blend of that with Batman action.
Yeah.
You know.
It really does feel like, it almost feels like if David Fincher did Batman, this is what it would have looked like if he did direct a Batman movie.
That's cool.
It almost
That's a cool thought.
Because, you know, I know like back then, I want to say that, you know, every time there's always a new project, you see all these directors get their names tossed. And I want to say he got tossed around Batman Begins before that came out, that he would have done it. But I know even like Aronofsky was even like a,
That would have been great, actually. I would have interested to see him do a Batman. He seems like that guy that would enter the dark DC realm.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, people. If you're listening here, if you have the real answer, then just tweet towards us.
Tweet it. Instagram us.
But I want to say, didn't he write a treatment for Batman Begins? It was like one of those like ones that he even wrote, but that
I'll look that up real quick.
It didn't get picked up, but he wanted to adapt it as a graphic novel if he didn't.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a graphic. When you mentioned graphic novel, I do remember that. Dude, we talked about that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Holy shit, when was that?
Yeah,
That was fucking years
long
ago.
time ago. Yeah, but just going with saying with like going back with like the director influences, just felt like this would be like a Fincher Batman.
Interesting, yeah.
You had that Fincher style in there.
Yeah.
In a good way, where it's like
Of course.
it's dope.
I wonder if that has to be Reese's one of the main influences. It would be kind of cool to see like directors just like have a list of their influences, just so we can look it up, just to see where they may be going with their next films. That'd be cool to do.
I'm sure. I mean, the fact that he listed like 7 Zodiac in his influences makes sense. I'm sure that's like,
I like that he listened to Nirvana though. Because, you know why? You know why? Because you know what it also brought to in terms of grounded, and then that feel you were talking about. It kind of felt like grungy.
You're right.
It felt like a grunge.
Right.
Like it was almost like a grunge Batman, but done right, of course, without the campiness.
Yeah.
It was like we were in a grunge era of Batman.
Exactly, and people have been saying that lately, and I think that's kind of cool because it gives it new flavor. It just gives it its own new Batman.
It's
just how you're gonna separate it from the other ones.
It's exactly what it is. It's a new flavor, and you can, and guys, I know we did a lot of comparison stuff, but you have to really see the movie to feel what we're talking about. You just have to be there.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to see at least twice. I know most of you guys probably have, but for the ones that haven't, or just don't care about spoilers or whatever, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's great, dude. It's a whole new thing.
Yeah, and last kind of bit to lead to the next question. So we talked about Penguin. We talked a little bit about Catwoman, but overall, what did you think of Zoe Kravitz?
Yeah, Zoe Kravitz, what's funny is how you get vibes right away when you see somebody?
Yeah.
I didn't feel that.
Yeah.
And this is not in a bad way. I was like, man, she's a fucking cool Catwoman. Mm-hmm. I actually thought her and Robert Pattinson were pretty cool together. They were. They were even better, and I like how she was good. Yeah. I really thought she brought it, even though she wasn't as sexualized, as she is in the comics, that actually worked out for this movie. Yeah. Because this version, from what they're going for, is not really that. They don't want you to concentrate on that. It's not because of all, that. It's just mostly, I just think, because they wanted to keep it this tone. Yeah. So make Catwoman match the tone, but let's still make her feel like she's Catwoman. Yeah. And she is, but in this one, maybe when she comes back, because remember, they went their separate ways. Mm-hmm. Do we know if she's going to come back? I'm pretty sure she will to help him. Maybe when Pattinson's in need. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The bat and the cat. I mean, it's such a good, phrase, the bat and the cat. Such a good catch that they can't bring her back. Right. She's probably going to come back to be a little bit more seductive because she hasn't seen him in a while. Yeah. And she probably is going to miss him. That's where probably the seductive part's going to come in later on. Yeah. But this one, they wanted to let you know that, hey, Catwoman is also this character, because even when you see her in iterations, even in the video games, she can be serious and she kicks ass. Yeah. And she does know good fights, because that's why Batman respects her. Like, you could be doing better. You're so fucking good at what you do, and you're such you almost give me my female match that it's like you should just do. And he does convince her, obviously, Batman in most iterations. He just loves her the most. Yeah. Loves her so much. You know what I mean? And they're just so good together, and she knows it too, and she sees the good man in him. Yeah. And I think that's where we're gonna see Bruce Wayne heal when she comes back. Mm-hmm. Because he's gonna be like, I need your help. Yeah. You and me are the Bat and the Cat. It might be the new double team up that we'll see in the sequel. You know what I mean?
You never know.
Sorry. Yeah. And as Zoe Kravitz, I had no problem with her. Yeah. I thought she was perfectly fine. She was great. Yeah. Zoe Kravitz convinced me that she can do a role like that, and I'm glad she did it the way she did. I'm glad they wrote her that way, because I felt in this version, she nailed it. Yeah. She nailed it. I liked her as Catwoman, and I like her costume was very subtle, wasn't too much. Yeah. She had the cute little ears, but I can understand that because in the movie, she was working at a club. Yeah. She wants to still act cute, this and that, but she wants to influence that for her vigilante justice. Yeah. And she actually had motives this time. Yeah. She had motives. The other ones, she, like with Michelle Pfeiffer, sexy, but that's mostly what it was. Mm-hmm. To give Batman that sexy, to want you to let you know that one really portrayed Catwoman's sex appeal. Yeah. Nolan's Catwoman with Anne Hathaway wasn't bad either.
Yeah.
You know, it was just more of a. She was serious too most of the time, but even though she was sexy, her tone was like, hey, you know.
Yeah.
But Zoe Kravitz had that too, but it was just that word, that word of being realistic, grounded, and she would tell him even when she talks to him on top of the thing, like it's okay, baby. You know what I mean? Like she talks to him like you know, like she had that little seductive thing. She already knows she worked that because she was capable of that.
Right.
You know, but I like because the story didn't have room for that. Yeah. And Reeves and whoever wrote that knew that all that seductive stuff is not really going to fit here because we're in a whole different world and we're in a different villain situation here. There's stuff going on, and she was going through stuff, losing her lover / friend.
Yeah.
And then she finds out Falcone. You know, all that stuff. So she's going through shit, and that's why I love the way they wrote it. And Zoe nailed it. Yeah. And I've heard some people too say, they didn't really have chemistry. I said, you know what? To be honest with you, I didn't feel that. Yeah, I'm pretty neutral on that. Like I can see why you didn't think they had chemistry. I get that. No. I didn't feel that at all. I felt like it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, it was good chemistry. It was great. I did like their talks when they were up there. Mm-hmm. You know, and when they were up on the building where they always met, you know, where the signal was or in the tower, and the way she would be angry at him and the way her sassiness was when she would turn back chewing gum. Yeah. You know, she kind of had that, you know. So she showed the perfect balance of, okay, I can be sexy. Yeah. But right now, this specific story in the Batman has no room for that. Yeah. This is Catwoman going for justice and really stealing and doing her burglar stuff. She's not stealing from no fucking thing. She's stealing from the mafia. She's doing all that stuff. This was a great Catwoman, and Zoe Kravitz I think really did great. Even though I haven't seen her much, I thought she was fucking good. I thought I had no problems with her. Even in the second time I viewed, I was like, I like their chemistry. When they're in the mask, even when she's without her mask, and he's like, whatever. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool. I liked it. I enjoyed the small romance, and it wasn't a lot of that. It almost didn't. It was a romance, but it didn't feel like that. Almost, it just felt like a different kind of thing, a different kind of love thing. Like, you know, it like they knew who they were deep down inside, and they had no room for just lying. And I liked how she brought some of him out a little bit. Yeah, she kind of was like, she really calmed him down a little bit, just like how when she told him like you're really got a lot of fucked up shit in there, huh? And then he's like, yeah, you know, like he's the only one that's been honest with her about that. He was honest with her. And that's why she brought that up. But the way she asked him and the way she would ask him things, you know, it was perfect for Robert Pattinson's vibe and to get through him to answer. Yeah. But she wasn't doing it in a conniving way. You know, she really was his balance of light and then darkness because she would do her own thing still. Yeah. And I liked it because they balanced that too where she would do, no, don't take off the eyes. No, I need to see them. Yeah. And then she just goes in. Yeah. And I like that. She's like, you know what, dude? Like, you're Batman. And that was really Catwoman like, hey, you're badass, baby, but I'm doing my own shit. Back the fuck off. And she did that well right there. And it was very subtle, but I felt that, you know, because what did she do? She tried to go straight for him. And she even killed her dad in the end. Yeah. She snuck it in.
Or wasn't he assassinated? I can't remember.
I don't know, but she walked away, remember? That's and right. They didn't prove it, but it kind of looked like he looked back and he didn't, was he look? I think he saw her, right? I can't remember that too.
I've already seen it 3 times. I'm already blanking with some parts. But
no, actually he didn't. I don't think he did.
I think it was one of the Riddler goons, right? Because there was a guy they look up, there's the sniper.
Yeah, but I think that was him though. Remember he says you would find me when you step the rat into the light. And then you would find me. So that was really, because you can tell by the hairstyle. Because remember after they find him in the diner across the street? That's right. So it was him. Yeah. But I think she shot, that's why she looked like this, like really like her eyes were going back front. She just walked away because she snuck in the shot. Right. That's right. Yeah, so I think that with Zoe Kravitz overall, guys, I have to admit, I had no problem with her. I can't wait to see her in the other Batmans. She did a great job.
Yeah, I agree. And which leads to the next question. So, like, if she does return in the sequel or another feature sequel, but as of now, for the sequel of The Batman, which villains would you want to see and why?
What villains would I want to see?
I know we were slowly talking about that. Would you bring up?
Oh no, let's get into it because this is details.
Since what this movie set up, what would you think that the sequel? What villains should we see? I know there's things getting tossed around even by Matt Reeves, or Pattinson, but what would you see?
Well, you know what I would think about it, since the way they had this with more of like a realistic, you know, like not so fantasy villains and stuff. We've seen that before, obviously. Yeah. But now that they did Ra's al Ghul, they've done Joker so many times already. You know, like I mean, I have to admit with that, it's like I know Joker is a really important part of Batman's entire arc and the way he lives his vigilante life.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you still don't need to have him in there all the time.
Yeah, that was my least favorite part of the movie, just forcing the Joker.
Yeah,
they didn't need that.
They didn't really need. And it actually would have been a little bit more relieving if they didn't have him in there. Be like, oh wow, this really is its own thing finally.
Yes,
we don't need to have. And Barry Keoghan, I'm like, that guy has he's like a Paul Dano. They play the same thing. They have the straight face all the time. I'm like,
which
they
is
have
very
a long,
interesting.
yeah, they have a long career ahead of them. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, and I will say that for other actors we'll talk about in other films in the future. But right now, nah. And I wonder, in terms of villains I would like to see here now in Batman. Dude, what we talked about, it has to be done because even the Batman fans are asking for it. The Court of Owls.
Yes.
We have to see that because the way Matt Reeves is doing this style and this Frank Miller kind of thing, where it's more of like that dark psychological Batman stuff, and more like we're getting to realistic in an interesting way. It's like it's new flavor.
Yes.
I think this has to have the Court of Owls, which we'll get into a little bit deeper in a little bit. The Court of Owls. I keep hearing rumors about Mr. Freeze, but about me, I will have to admit I would like to see that too because I think he would be dope because he hasn't been seen since obviously the Arnold Schwarzenegger version.
Right.
But imagine doing him right because he is a little sinister, and he just like a sick scientist, mad scientist.
Yeah.
I think we would get more of a straightforward Robert Pattinson Batman instead of such like a psychological thing, which is not a problem. But maybe we can finally see a different version of Pattinson's Batman by just being straight action. Always in the suit, fighting a guy who actually is more strength and powers and smarts, in terms of technology, like him. So it would be a tech battle.
Ooh.
It would be like a Robert Pattinson's like tech battle. Yeah. Who has the better technology? Who can come up with the most to defend against your ice thing?
Yeah.
That's where I think they should come with the blue and gray Batman at that time. So he could fight, so represent the blue. They got the red. They had the green with Riddler. Get some blue. We already seen blue in Batman, but I'm talking about blue as his costume, like the traditional, like year one McFarlane, Batman, the kind of like where he had the blue and black, and he really was shown a lot in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
I would love to see that for a Mr. Freeze. He finally dons, because that was the concept what they would originally go for his Batman's original costume was the blue and gray one.
Interesting.
Yeah, I saw some concept art recently, and they said that was supposed to be like they were thinking about doing the blue and gray Batman finally. I was like, dude, it's my favorite Batman, but save that if they put in Mr. Freeze.
That'd be cool.
Mr. Freeze for a more action Batman, for a more straightforward Pattinson Batman.
Yeah.
Court of Owls for everything.
Yeah.
Maybe we can even maybe he can finally be the Batman that kills. We did that with Batfleck, but he just started killing. There was no backstory because obviously this was Justice League.
Right.
And Batman versus Superman. But this time you can actually set up him going nuts. Like, oh my God. Like, let's say you kill Zoe Kravitz. They end up killing Catwoman.
Wow.
What happens if he just says, I can't do this no more. I have to let this out. Maybe that's what they're hinting at. That's why he was being so brutal with the ones here. Yes, he's young, but I wonder if Matt Reeves is hinting like, we're going to maybe get into him being the killing and maybe him dealing with that too. Yeah. I think the Court of Owls, if they come in there, they will set Batman off and they will really get to him because Batman almost died so many times fighting them. Like they killed him. They would send one of their main assassins, I forgot his name, but he would come and try to fight Batman. And he beat the shit out of him. And Batman was like, fuck. And they gave him one of his greatest challenges, the Court of Owls. It's like the Gotham Illuminati. That's what they are. And they are scary because they have those scary mouth guys. They could do like the independent horror films like they did. It could be like a Stranger's thing. Oh. It could be like a, whatchamacallit, with the whole mask thing. Just that serial killer mask stuff.
I think I could just see it like Batman in like the movie Eyes Wide Shut, just him going through like crazy and just like so he's not supposed to be here, but this is the Batman facing a new like this underbelly of this whole city, but there's like a whole syndicate that's happening. Right. 'Cause I don't know too much about the Court of Owls. It's just something recently I've been hearing about, which got me to like maybe like I should buy the graphic novel to this and find out the story.
Yeah, because they're the ones that set up like all the like they're Illuminati. They have all the plans for the city. They have all that stuff. Going on and all that stuff like that. And it's just like, and it's just crazy because at the end of the day, it's like the Court of Owls is like, they don't stop for nobody. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they plan everything. Everything's in the shadows. No one knows who they are. Wow. They plan everything about them. Like everything is set up, like a plan. But they want to kill Batman because he's in the way of the plans. He's always in the way of their vision for Gotham. He's the only one in the way.
He's a thing in the way, like that Nirvana song, you know.
That's something in the way. Oh, that's right. That's true. They could do that. Yeah,
use that song again.
Something in the way is fucking Batman. Kill his ass.
That's the new theme song for
But they're scary because they're constantly in masks. They're just constantly in the darkness in their owl masks, just sitting together as a little group in their society. They are in suits. They're in suits and they have masks. I'm telling you, it will be a whole like that, just eyes wide shut, dude. That and that's great because I know we've talked about that too. Like maybe we can get to a eyes wide shut Batman. Yeah. And I'm glad we're bringing this up here because it's true. If we can get an eyes wide shut Batman, but with some action because there's a lot of action in that storyline. Woo! We're probably gonna get some crazier. We're gonna get into the scary realm, the dark, like the really scary stuff that Batman really goes through.
Which makes sense too, to have them as the villains for the sequel, especially what this film sets up. Up this really just dark tone, and you just continue that with those villains. I think I agree. I think they should be the.
Hey, owls and bats come out at night the most, so it'll be a lot of dark scenes. You know what I mean? And trust me, they stay in the darkness. It's all going to be about everything about. I think this trilogy is going to be all dark. Like everything is bad.
That's what I'm thinking.
And then Batman would start coming out during the day more when the city starts getting better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think they're going to lead towards like the birth of a new Gotham and of actually him. He's already Batman, but I'm talking about him becoming like veteran Batman. Yeah. This whole I guarantee that if they're going to do a trilogy, the third movie is going to have that. But I think they should go with the Court of Owls next.
I agree.
And then if they do anybody else, since it's like this kind of like, new flavored Batman and grounded, it's got to be like Two-Face has to be in there.
Yeah.
But there's someone else that I think would be in there cool would be Black Mask. Ooh. Black Mask, he's the mafia boss too, but I remember playing in Arkham City. Now correct us if we're wrong, guys. I know that he was the younger brother of Bruce Wayne, but like not by blood related. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I know that was in the Arkham City, so I know the games they changed things up a lot. Mm-hmm. But if we're incorrect, let us know. We're gonna probably just look it up right now. Yeah. But we'll just look it up right now. But the Black Mask, he's the guy with the black skull in his face. He's like Red Skull, but like with a black one. And he's just a mafia boss. And that would be cool too. Because you're getting that. And then you can have more scenes with him and Penguin. Because Penguin's now the new mob boss of Gotham pretty much. And who else wants to get some? Yeah. The Black Mask wants in on it. Get Two-Face when we start the DA died. So we're gonna get a new DA. So Harvey Dent might be introduced in the next one. Who is gonna be Harvey Dent in the next one?
I don't know. I hope they cast. I'm sure they'll cast someone great that would go along with like Pattinson and the cast.
I think they would stay away from Two-Face coming in the second one and have him come in the third one. They may not even do Two-Face at all. They may just have Harvey Dent there as Harvey Dent. You never know.
Kind of like the original Batman when they had Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent.
Yeah, but he never turned into. Exactly like that.
Like just set him up as the DA, then. We'll just see what happens.
There was no talk about a new DA. That's why they're probably hinting Harvey Dent's in the second one. Probably.
I forgot about that.
I don't know who they'll get, but
I also would because Black Mask would be great. I know like it's a fan favorite animated movie, but I would love to see the Phantasm live action.
Oh yeah!
Finally, just bring out this beautiful woman in this crazy dark suit, making that maybe a love interest of Batman. Maybe do set up something kind of like that.
Because it was like that.
Yeah, maybe it's some girl he knew in the past and he's come back to bite him.
Because he used to be a playboy. Maybe we'll get into the more playboy days when he was maybe. Well, I mean, he was only 2 years of Batman. Let's say Batman in this one's like 30 years old. Yeah. Because it seems like that's what he is. Like 30, 31, Yeah. Like 30 to 32 years old maybe. Mm-hmm. And let's say in his young years as preparing for Batman, he still had to keep face. Because he was young, so Alfred had to keep him in line, Yeah. So they probably played. That's a good idea. Imagine seeing a Mask of the Phantasm. That would be sick.
Live action.
Pattinson's oh my God. And that would be cool to have something like that. And then what happens if she even gets like mad because of Catwoman? And they have a fight, and she probably almost maybe does Catwoman in.
They have a cat fight.
And then cat fight. But and that would be cool because the Phantasm, she knew martial arts too. I forgot the character, but she was a love interest of his.
Yeah.
But imagine having someone close to him. Let's spin it off. Imagine if like it comes back and I don't think it would be Catwoman. She's already established, but that would be an interesting twist. But what happens if it was someone like maybe like a Vicky Vale? Like the reporter that Batman always in, but maybe he kind of ruins her career accidentally, and she always loved him, and she feels betrayed, and she says like, you know what? Instead of reporting, I'm just gonna fucking become this character, and I'm gonna give you a challenge, but I'm gonna give you this and you're not gonna expect. You're gonna think it's a guy. You think it's another fucking dude. You're gonna look up
cartoon.
but then, just like the cartoon, and then you see it's just this sexy redhead that's beating the shit out of him. And I think no, Joker does not show up in that one. I don't think he does. I think he does, right? Yeah, he does. But she even scares him because she was about to kill him. So maybe she can kill Barry Keoghan for us.
Which I'm like that too. I know we just talked about that, and it's just very curious of like I know we didn't see his face. I know it was not necessary, but I'm very curious if they're really gonna stick to the guns with him. I'm very curious of how his Joker will be and how they'll play it off. Because I heard these rumors from the grapevine that there was a scene they deleted from the film with the Joker. And I heard it was just not good at all. They just thought like, hey, this is not necessary. This is just rumors I hear that this happened.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
If he's going to be in there, he can't be a focus, dude.
No, we've seen the Joker so much, and I love that villain, but I just felt like we just had so much, and we had 3 different Jokers in the last decade after Heath Ledger. We had freaking Jared Leto, then we had Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Very fourth one. Already a fourth one. More than Batman. More than Batman. We have more Jokers.
Yeah. But dude, you know what? It really is that. It's just, like too many Jokers. Like I said before, it is an arc to him, but let's get something fresh. We didn't really need Barry Keoghan at the end.
No.
We really didn't. I felt like we didn't need it. No one needed it. It's like no. I think they should take a break from that. Okay, have him in there as a cameo, but I did hear Matt Reeves already said he's not going to be any really real focus in the sequel.
Good.
I'm just hoping he's not a real focus in the third one, because it's like, dude, we can't repeat the same movie, because then I'm going to have real comments about the movie.
Yes.
Even no matter how good it is, I'm still going to say, yeah, but we didn't need another Joker movie. No. We just got that with Nolan. People are still bitching and talking about that. Like let's just leave that for now. Yes, Joaquin Phoenix, obviously that was only fucking 3 years ago. We don't need any more Joker arcs. We've seen them all now.
Yeah.
Okay, we've finally seen them all. The one where Arthur Fleck is the comedian is the final iteration we really needed to show that Joker's another, a different kind of person. We've seen the rest of them. We've seen Mob Boss. We've seen classic Joker with like Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And we've seen comedian Joker with a real name with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
We don't need any more.
Right.
Get him out of there for now. For now.
Yeah.
Not in this one. So I think they should go with the ones we talked about. Even Court of Owls, Mr. Freeze, Two-Face, Black Mask, and then, Phantasm. Let's do that. Maybe where she finally fucking like releases the villains from Arkham, and then he has to fight everyone. Then he finds out that it's one of his like crazy like, I don't know, this crazy psycho chick. Hey, another, speaking of Tom Cruise, Eyes Wide Shut. It's okay. Vanilla Sky. You know what I mean? Remember Cameron Diaz was Psycho? You can get a character like that, but she is the Phantasm, and she fucks up his whole life. That'd be sick. Get someone Psycho if you are going to get the Phantasm. So as of now, so far, that's who I would want. I don't think they should introduce any Robin right now. Yeah. Because he's still young. He's year 2. There's no room for any of that.
Not yet.
Don't bring that in, even though that's not a villain, I know.
Right.
But this is just things that I don't think should be in this new trilogy. This will be like the new classic badass trilogy that people will love for all time if they just keep what they have now. Period. So, but that's just me with the villains.
I agree, man.
Yeah.
And I feel like you gotta just do, especially like I like to. Because there's so much villains. I feel like sometimes these movies, these producers always go back to what's been done already. Yeah. And I just feel like, why can't we just get new villains that we have never seen live action finally? Like Court of Owls never seen, or even like, I know the Phantasms, people love the animated movie like me, but to see that live action, that would be cool. Because that hasn't been done live action versus, like Joker butchered to death, and and it's cool they did the Riddler, but that's already how many iterations, like 3, but it's its own new thing, which is cool. Which was why it worked, versus I wouldn't want them to repeat the same things. I would even want to see like if it's possible in this new Batman series to even see like Clayface or Killer Croc in some form,
Right, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like maybe he has to go into the sewers, and then he's like, okay, people are getting eaten alive. Then we can finally get some rated R Batman here.
Yeah.
Let's get some rated R Batman, Reeves. Okay? Yeah. Let's I know PG-13 is great. Arkham was rated M. And guess what happened when people heard that Batman game was rated M? Oh, what the fuck? Yeah. Yeah. And look, it now became one of the greatest like games of all time. Like, come on now, dude. People, I'm going to be honest with you, people love violence. People love gore. People love sex. People love drugs. You have that all in there in a superhero film?
Right.
you got everybody's attention. Period. And we've been talking about this, and even others back in the day were talking when we were preteens, dude.
Yeah.
Young. We were still talking about hoping they do that, and they're doing it now. Look at Disney causing the TVMA stuff.
True.
Love it. Fucking loving it.
Yeah.
And Disney knows that people are loving it. Right now, people are like, yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah. And people are loving it. Even some reactors I watch, they're like, oh yeah, all those shows are going to be on Disney Plus. And they're like, that's cool. Yeah. Like, hell yeah, bro, it's cool. Yeah. Disney's like, hey, we started the family animation bullshit. Let's start bringing some fucking mature for the other people. You know what I mean? And, well, because they bought Marvel, but now we're on DC. I think DC needs to be... They did it with Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was great. See how good that was? Mm-hmm. When it was rated R, but you did it right. You're not trying to emphasize, hey, this is a rated R superhero film, so here's blood everywhere. Yeah. Nothing like that. But the way they've been doing it in the superhero films these days is exactly what they need to do. And if they do have someone like that, Killer Croc, they get Clayface, they get some other psycho characters, you know, like there's a lot, like maybe even bring back Scarecrow, because he would be perfect for something like the Batman. Yeah. And then we already get into the psyche of Batman. What happens, you know, he gets caught in the fucking formula, and he's just like, he starts fucking really tearing down the city as Batman. He becomes the villain, you know, and then everyone's like, okay, now they're really after me, you know, and Scarecrow just causes this panic. That would be a good one to have in this one, for sure. Maybe he's the one that, you know, can break out of Arkham or have someone like that. But they need to do that, period. Yeah. For this trilogy. So, yeah. But that's what I think, man. Yeah. That's what I think. But those are some good ones, too, like you mentioned. I would love to see, like, Killer Croc or Clayface in there.
Yeah. You know, if they can make it work, I'm sure they can. Whatever, you know, that they're going for. We'll see what happens in the sequel. Let's hope the Court of Owls will be the... I mean, if Pattinson's saying it himself, then there has to be. They're
going to do it.
It's going to...
And fans are wanting it anyway. Yeah. You might as well just fucking do it. And this is the era of what we always say. Let me tell you guys, this is the era of if you're going to bitch about something that you want in a movie, I'm pretty sure it's about 75%, 80% it's going to get in there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And now rumors are basically leaks now, real leaks. Yeah. So, you know, it's like you got to be careful, but I mean, just start fucking hashtagging shit. Yeah. You know? Fucking Court of Owls, Batman 2. Court of Owls, Batman 2. Matt Reeves is going to be like, all right, let's do it. Let's fucking do it. We'll wait till Mr. Freeze to like the third movie or something. Yeah. You know? So... But yeah.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the future of this Batman. So I can't wait to see more adventures. Yes. This is a movie I do want to see again in the theater. Because just felt like a real theater experience. Like I was saying in the beginning, just like, I don't know, man. Something about the way it looks. It felt so big. It felt grand.
See it in IMAX, people. Yeah. If you're near one, just see it in an IMAX. It's worth it. Yeah. A real IMAX, not a shitty one.
And the sound was great in the theater. Like it just felt like a real theater movie again. And I know we've seen lots of good ones lately, but that was just like, it felt great seeing it open.
Let me tell you something about this Batman. It had everything. And you're right about that. It had all that. You know what I mean? It's like that theater experience, but it had everything. Yeah. The comedy wasn't there, but it was there. And it was perfect. Yeah. That's how you do comedy in a film like this. Yeah. You know? And there really wasn't, in a way.
It was genuine, though. It was just like those little moments that, like, the thumb drive part. I was like, that's kind of funny. I was like, oh, that's it.
You got a lot of cats. But it wasn't like building up to it. It just was like, oh, that was a cool little break from some of the violence and bullshit that's happening. In the film. That's it. Yeah. Everything else was just straightforward. I think this film almost is, I know it's probably a high reach, but it almost is a perfect film. Yeah. It has the action. The writing for the detective story was good. We got the psyche of the main character. Yeah. We were able to get the character's balance with his supporting, like Alfred, was perfectly just put in at each time. Yeah. Which is great, you know, with and then also Jeffrey Wright. You know, it had the world, the environmental feel, the fear of the character, the detective work, the action, the practical effects, which was a lot I saw, which was great. Everything was practical. Mostly, you know, you didn't see too much of special effects, too much if there was. I didn't even fucking recognize it. Yeah. It just, everything looked like we were in a real, like they filmed in a real city and it was a set. Yeah. You know, and it had everything. Like, you know, it had meaning, the symbolisms, you know, it's just like, this is almost one of those instead of saying near perfect films for now, let's just say it's almost a near perfect hero film, superhero film for a character like that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's what that's what I leave that off of.
Yeah, no, I totally dug it, man. I'm all in for Battinson, you know, I can't wait for more Battinson adventures. Definitely. And yeah, man, no, this is definitely one. Like I said, I will see you again, and I can't wait to buy the 4K Blu-ray and just watch it at home too.
Fucking steelbooks, bro. All up the
Oh,
ass,
we got
bro.
pre-order the steelbooks.
Up the ass, guys. Hopefully you guys, hopefully you guys get it, and you're not the ones that take the last orders from us.
Oh, the scalpers.
Yeah,
man.
you better not fucking do that.
You scalpers, you hear that?
yeah. Don't be scalping, bro. Leave that to the doctors. Fuck that shit. Don't be scalping shit right now, dude. I need that. Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I heard it's coming to HBO Max in like just a few weeks, apparently.
What?
I heard it because they have like a 45-day window now. It's been smaller, so theater films that Warner Brothers do will go to. I think that's their new rule. Instead of having same day, give a 45-day window.
Hey, never mind, guys. Watch the HBO Max version. Watch the actual physical versions. Just fucking stay on the streaming. But no, I didn't hear that. That's good news because then we can look at it again. And just watch it over and over again. I'm just gonna have it on loop at the house. Yeah, just be like, fuck it.
Yeah.
They just put this on all the time.
Oh yeah. But,
such a great film.
I know. That'll be another good background movie. Just keep watching.
Oh, just all the time, all the time. But what do you think? Anything else that you?
No. I mean, I think that's how I. Just for now, that's how I really feel. I really liked it. I really dug it. I hope people are. I mean, it seems like people are. It. So I think that's great. So we get more of this Batman.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy as Batman is my second favorite superhero, or third. Let's say third for now, because even though I grew up with him a lot, it's and I know you did too.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm really happy for more like the Batman fans.
Yeah.
I mean, they got justice with Nolan, but this one is like comic Batman. Yeah. Like we got everything we needed in this one.
Yeah.
And that's where I leave it off of. And to be honest with you, DC needs to stick with this. Don't get too much in the way, Warner Brothers. Back off. Let Matt Reeves do his thing. You guys are doing the right decision with this one. Don't fuck this one up. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to bite the bullet and call back Zack Snyder to save your ass. So
restore the Snyderverse.
Yeah, just restore the Snyder. I know that's going around right now, but I mean, I was actually looking forward to that verse. But that's a whole nother story, guys. But just to let you guys know, man, that was great. We appreciate you guys listening in. We know we talked about a lot. Of course, we wanted to make sure that you guys kept as interested as possible. We are new, so if you did take time to listen to this, we don't, from the bottom of our hearts, trust us. We really do appreciate it because we're not credible yet with a lot of things, but we're doing our best because we just want to be genuine, even with our main thoughts and everything like that. So at the end of the day, I just want to give you guys a little hint towards episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 2, we're going to deal with not just one universe. Now we're going to be dealing with multiple universes because the next episode is we're going to have to take a time to start talking about Multiverse of Madness. There's a lot of shit. And you know what? One thing I would like to leave for the Batman, and since speaking of Multiverse of Madness, which we were building up to, Sam Raimi said he wants to direct a Batman. We don't know yet, but he really wants one. That came out of fucking nowhere. I was screaming when that happened, but imagine a Sam Raimi Batman. We'll leave that off for another conversation if we need to. Trust us. Maybe when we get to Multiverse of Madness, we can touch on that a little bit for you guys with the Sam Raimi Batman, because there's not much details except his statements, so we'll leave it at that for now, but just keep that in mind because we're going to revisit that for sure. But Multiverse of Madness, we're going to have a guest here. He's a buddy of mine. He's big on the comics. I'll be honest with you guys. He's more of a comic expert than I am. He just knows. He's just that good. So he's going to give us more insight on what we can possibly see in the Multiverse of Madness because I'm telling you, ComicSplice, I'm telling you, Michelangelo, this is going to be the shit. Yeah. And I think that we're going to be more mind blown than fucking anything. We thought MCU, what could the MCU have done? But anyways, we just want to give you a hint, guys, because we want to dedicate this podcast. I don't want to get too far with that because we wanted to make this for not only, dedicate to the Batman and to bring out our inner fandom that we found out, really brought out this Batman fan in us. Like I haven't felt in a while. This movie did. Yeah. And we wanted to dedicate that. And also to the fans that finally got what they wanted for DC and Batman. So we appreciate you guys for listening. Catch us in the next episode. To be honest with you, that's going to be very soon because April 6th is coming, and that's a month away, exactly a month away before Doctor Strange 2. So I'm excited, bro. That's going to be a big one. That one's going to go on for days, that talk. I mean, it's just, especially when we see it after, that's going to be the special edition, guys. Trust me, you're going to want to see us for that one because we're going to talk about it a lot. So thank you guys again. This is VHS Smuggler out. This is ComicSplice, a.k.a. Michelangelo out. We thank you for listening to episode 1. You guys have a good night or day. Thank you again.